nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The first order of business is action on minutes. To see what action the board wishes to take regarding approval of the minutes from the meeting held on September 23rd, 2024. Do I have a motion? Morrissey, and a second? Thank you, Stephanie. Any discussion? Seeing none, all of those in favor of approval from the minutes from September 23rd, 2024? Thank you, it's unanimous. The next order of business is citizen comments. Is there anyone here from the public that would like to speak?
Hi, my name is David Jasowskis and I'm from Bryant Pond.
Hi, my name is Piper Farrah and I'm from Bethel.
Hi, my name is Nico Mursky-Gray and I'm from Greenwood. Good evening. We are here representing the Telstar Public Relations class. We wanted to talk about an opportunity that came to our school called the Maine Biolab. The Maine Biolab was very excited to show our students and staff their experiments they provided us. You might have seen them parked outside our new outdoor learning space. Every middle school grade got to go inside the biolab and experiment with the materials they had out for us. Mrs. Lecce had noticed that the Maine Biolab was traveling and she filled out an application for them to come to our school. And fortunately, we got picked. We were also the Maine Biolab first school they came to this year. They came here to provide us hands-on learning experiments and it was very fun and educational. Everyone was very engaged and we had so many good reports about the biolab from everyone. We are excited to share about the opportunity we had with you.
The sixth graders experimented with physical and chemical changes by mixing the provided ingredients together and watching the reaction. One of the students we interviewed said they were able to turn something purple with iodine. Our seventh graders experimented with water filters. They made gravity-feed water filters where the water goes in the top and lets it do its job, so the water comes out cleaner than before. Mr. Elliott mentioned that he did this experiment when he was a student and found it interesting to watch his students also get to do it. Us eighth graders got the amazing opportunity to go to the Maine Biolab with both Mr. Hedden and Ms. Carson. The activities we did were the same physical and chemical changes experiment that the sixth graders did, and a second experiment that showed us what happens to our brain when we hit our head. For example, falling off a bike with a helmet versus without a helmet.
The Maine Biolab had our students and staff very excited the week they came. The staff that got to be included in the Biolab were Mr. Hedden, Mrs. Carson, Mr. Elliott, and Ms. Doyle. They all agreed that they thought it was exciting to see the students have hands-on learning in a small but advanced learning space. Mr. Hedden even said he was impressed with the use of space inside the Biolab. While teacher opinions are important, student opinions are also important. We talked to a couple teachers and asked them which students stuck out to them the most during the Maine Biolab. Afterwards, we went and found those students and asked them about it. For the 8th grade, we talked to Natalie Phillip and Alexis Gordon. Natalie thought it was a good idea to learn about concussions because most kids play sports and are at risk of getting them. They also both agreed that the space they got to work and do these experiments was very interesting and fun. Alexis also mentioned she loved the color-changing pencils they gave every single one of us. For the 7th grade, we talked to Carter Fortier and Ruth Snowburn. They both thought the science experiment they got to do was really fun. For 6th grade, we asked Cameron Ellis and Noah Intermule what they thought. Noah said he really enjoys science and especially enjoyed the part where he got to experiment with chemical change. Cameron thought it was really great the entire middle school got to experience this. Overall, we think all students and staff had a wonderful time and everyone was engaged. And we would like to thank Mrs. Lecce and the Maine Biolab for letting our entire middle school experience this.
Is there anyone else here from the public that would like to speak this evening?
Hi, Lindsay Lecce, Bryant Pond. I just wanted to publicly thank high school coach Nick Conrad. He organized, if you didn't know, an alumni soccer game last weekend. The weather was beautiful. The parents helped organize some food, and we had alum from class of 23 all the way to class of 88 participate in the game. It is something that happened. I remember them doing it when I first started teaching, so I was so thrilled to have that come back. Lots of people on the hill watching, so let's hope that that continues on. But thank you, Coach Conrad.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak? on to board member comments. Are there any board members that would like to speak this evening? Meredith?
Mark may speak about it, but as a Sunday River team member, Brian and I were able to attend the unification training at Sunday River, so I wanted to say thank you to Mark and the administration here for coming to Sunday River, and some of the kids came and helped us do it live. It's something that we planned for, but never want to see happen. As a board member, I wanted to ask, and maybe it can't be answered now, but that we could consider and understand why just Telstar unifies at Sunday River and why CPS and Woodstock don't, and understand that. I think the support of that external community could be valuable to the school district.
Thank you, Meredith. Anything to throw in there? Any other board member? Marcy?
Facilities committee team members are going to laugh at me because I was just talking about this. But I just wanted to point out, as a parent and board member, my son is going through the college prep process, and I just wanted to say the information and the follow-up from Lori Lindsay and Carrie Lynch have been so fantastic. We had a admissions session. There's going to be a FAFSA one coming up for junior senior parents, and just the follow-up that they've done, reaching out to the students, including the parents in the emails, making sure that the Common App is getting completed, and just all those little pieces that maybe seniors, maybe it's just mine, are not maybe so great at following up on, and just being super transparent and very communicative. It's just been fantastic. So I just want to say a huge thank you to them. They've been doing a fantastic job and making it much less stressful for the parent. So I just want to say I really appreciate that.
Anyone else that would like to speak?
So the school store stuff has come in from I'm doing this kind of as a PTA and as a mom. The school store stuff was picked up last Friday, so hopefully everybody got their stuff, and I'm sure Tanya saw some stuff she wants, so she'll open that back up again. So make sure to get all your CPS swag. It makes great gifts, and it's nice to see all the support and everybody wearing it on School Spirit Day. We do have a Norway Candle Company fundraiser going on right now. Those make great gifts, and it supports a local business as well, and we do really well on that camp. They're very, very good to us with that fundraiser. So it is on our Facebook page, and for any CPS students who support us, we'd appreciate it.
I was going to give a shout out about the college ride as well, but since you covered that, I'm going to use my time to thank these PR students for coming in and doing such an awesome job. You guys were very well spoken, very clear, and I was wondering, because I do drop off in the back and pass the lab every day, and I, got some information from my kid, but it was nice to hear a full presentation about it, so thank you. Awesome job.
Any other board members that would like to speak? Moving on to the chairman's report. The agenda for our next month's meeting, the November meeting, is fairly light, so we intend to incorporate a workshop. If anyone, I'm going to decide the topic within the next week or so if anybody has any suggestions or pressing topics, please reach out to me. And that is all for my chairman's report, because I will speak to the MSA conference in the meeting. So moving on to the next committee and board meetings. Our next SAD44 board meeting will be November 25th at 6:30 p.m. here in the Telstar Library. The Education Committee will meet Thursday, November 14th at 3 p.m. in the Norway Savings Bank Conference Room. Finance and Negotiations Committee will meet Tuesday, November 12th at 5:15 in the Superintendent's office. Facilities and Personnel will meet Monday, November 25th at 5:15, just before our board meeting in room 131. The Policy Committee will meet Monday, November 4th at 10 a.m. here in Telstar room 131. And the Region 9 Cooperative Board will meet Wednesday, November 6th at 6 p.m. at the Region 9 School of Applied Technology. Next, we have committee reports. Reporting for the Education Committee, Ms. Taylor, Ms. Herbeck.
Yes, our committee chair is not here, so
will be your education committee host for the evening. So this was our first technical meeting with the forum, so we have some housekeeping stuff out of the way. We elected chair and vice chair. We like to keep it simple. We went with team staff, so Stephanie Kayer as chair and Stephanie Kayer as vice. We discussed how we wanted to use our time as a committee for the year and ideas people we wanted to bring in and things we wanted to hear more about. In terms of the agenda, we went over the homework policy, which is now in the process at the policy committee level. And we just thought maybe in hindsight, in that letter that went out at the elementary level, it might have been good to have had some data and philosophy and thinking to kind of back up the policy and how we were approaching that. So we were discussing ways to maybe make that information available, and thought maybe that the website might be a place that people could access that information. So stay tuned. And we're also discussing ways for parents who want to be involved to maybe stay in the loop if they want to engage with their kids at home and do a little extra practice. Ways to allow that to happen, to allow that communication to flow back and forth. The only other thing was an update on Power School, which at the time was still a little, with all the hiccups and the bumps getting the technology sorted out. But last week I got an invitation to set up a parent portal at the middle and high school level, so things are moving in the right direction. I think there was attendance and maybe some missing work that was available, but not grades just yet, but getting there.
Thank you, Stephanie. And for facilities and personnel, Brian.
Yeah, we just met not too long ago this evening. The new pole and meter box was installed out front in the parking lot, so waiting on that to get energized by CMP, hopefully on or before November 5th, and we'll have the sign back up and running and some parking lot lights. We're going to be talking about it a little bit later, but we have some surplus vehicles, mostly buses going, hopefully going to be going up for sale or being scrapped. They're just not worth the district fixing them anymore. They're not really roadworthy for us to repair them. Somebody else might have a good time with it. Bus garage repairs are ongoing. We're in the final stretch right now. Everything is getting sent out to insurance to hopefully get reimbursed in full. Got some outlets to finish up and some plumbing work, but pretty much in the final little ticket items. Softball scoreboard is hopefully going to be up before the snow comes down, even though we had a little bit. We're just going to be modernizing some of the signs. We can get parts for the current ones. And then we're exploring options for future for bus routes to make sure they're all covered coming up in this year and the next few years. So that's about it.
Thank you, Brian. And for finance committee, Linda.
We met earlier this month. We talked about the current budget and where we stand in spending. We talked a lot about transportation and the future of that. We talked about the TEA negotiations that we hope to start in November. And then we started to talk about the budget process for this year.
Thank you, Linda. The policy committee, David.
The policy committee met on August 7th in room 131. Absent was Stephanie Herbert and Stephanie Kayer. Elections of officers, David Bartlett was chairman and Destiny Hughes is vice chairman. And we will be reviewing 3 policies tonight. First one will be policy IKB, homework. The second policy will be IKF, graduation requirements. Oh, I'm sorry, that's second and third. The first one is going to be compulsory attendance, first reading JEA. So that's JEA, IKB, and IKF policies tonight.
Thank you, David. And for the Region 9 plot report.
In case you might have missed it, there's an election going on next Tuesday, I think. So during that election, we're going to ask, Region 9 is going to ask to have the 11 towns that they serve okay the accepting of an $800,000 equipment grant. That grant is just for equipment, and it's mainly to equip the 2 new buildings, the the welding facility and also the greenhouse facility. And it's just equipment only. There will be some equipment purchased for the other programs, but the majority of it is to be used in the new building. So that vote is a separate item. I got baptized to the signing of the warrants for 11 towns. That took almost an hour of just sitting there signing papers as they go by. It was literally almost, it was interesting. So that was pretty much the whole meeting.
Moving on to the superintendent's report and correspondence. Mr. King.
Evening, everybody. We have a slew of winter coaches to appoint. We have boys head basketball coach at Telstar High School, Ryan Kimball, and assistant basketball coach Shane Wilson, head girls basketball coach Alec Newell, and assistant coach Brianna Douglas, Nordic skiing Kristen Powell, head baseball coach Josh Mowry, assistant baseball coach Ryan Kimball, head softball coach Michael Leary, and head track coaches David Leclerc and Morgan Richmond. Also math lead coach Dave Lynch. In the middle school, we have head boys basketball coach Tim O'Connor and assistant coach Steve Pelletier, Alpine coach Mark Duchard. And at Crescent Park, we have Crystal Gould, who's doing basketball. We have 2 resignations to announce this evening. Haley Andrews, 7th grade science teacher at Telstar Middle School, effective October 28th of 2024. And Lisa Frieda, who is Ed Tech 3 in the CPS Pre-K, effective November 29th, 2024. Last week, we were able to attend, a handful of us were able to go to the MSSA and MSMA annual conference in Augusta. I attended on Wednesday to the superintendent's conference, and we saw a keynote speaker. And on Thursday and Friday were the MSMA conference, which was for school board members, superintendents, and assistant superintendents. I attended on Thursday, but came back on Friday, because the pile of work was a little bit. Both keynote speakers talked a lot about the use of technology in schools and limiting student access to cell phones, just in their personal lives and school lives, and trying to get back to the idea of what is real engagement in school. They were great. It was very, captivating, engaging, and just trying to put into perspective what it means to really work in schools in this modern era. How do you approach all the social emotional pieces, all the academic rigor? How do you incorporate technology where it can be helpful, but at the same time limiting the technology and getting back to face-to-face people skills, hands-on activities, and interpersonal skills, which our youth is starting to really lack, and really trying to get back to that, finding the balance. So it was really important. The workshop breakouts on Thursday I was able to go to. Probably the most interesting one was the FOA, Freedom of Access to Information Act, and what gets shared or what does not get shared when requests come in. We received our first request this fall. The person we've had one in the district, in comparison to my counterpart down in Guam, Maine, and she's had 75. And just the amount of time that it takes to go through and fill these things out there, and to do it correctly, and to learn what gets shared and what does not get shared. So John Woodson had that individual workshop. There was some on budgeting. Another one I went to about engagement with students in a high school. They have a program very similar to our TFA type style program, but it was for all 4 years of high school, and kids could track in and out of being in hands-on activities, group projects, outdoor learning, incorporating what we have here in our pavilion, but just looking at what other people are starting. I was up in Nokomis High School in Newport, and the way that they are approaching making these courses available to all students, and moving their classes in that direction where, for example, in an English class, the entire English course was taught all around the focus of fly fishing, and using novels and activities, and just incorporating all these different components, and just try and find ways to hook kids and get their engagement levels up, and their so that's good. But it was really interesting and engaging. It was nice to connect with counterparts and just to learn a few new skills and tricks, always to go away and have some PDs, never a bad thing. And then we also had 3 board members attend different components over those 3 days. So if they would each like to take a moment now, I'll take a break and they can share out their experience and we'll go on from there.
Yeah, I went down for Thursday and Friday, and I ended up staying overnight. I was able to hear one of the keynote speakers, Weston Kieschnick, who talked a lot about like what engagement can look like, and again, based on, you know, like technology isn't necessarily the most engaging thing. Like we don't need to look at it that way. And so he was really great. Really interesting perspective. It was a lot of fun. And then I was able to sit in on 7 different workshops between the 2 days. I chose one called What's Really Happening with Behaviors in School, which was pretty interesting. It was like a survey that had been put out to try to like start the process of like looking at behaviors in school, both emotionally, physically, and like a lot based around like a new law, which you guys will probably hear about with like dangerous student behavior and stuff like that. And then chose to sit in on another one where I'm on the finance committee with Drummond and Woodstone on this, what they had learned from 16 budget meetings, so a lot more about like the budget process, where this will be my 2nd year sitting on that committee. I thought that was a good idea. I took one on legal year in review, so it was a lot about the different legal cases in the Supreme Court and the First Circuit Court, and like what's going on and like how that can pertain to us as like a board and like policies and stuff. I sat in on 2 bargaining workshops, one on basics and one on advanced when it comes to like TEA agreements. One on the intellectual freedom essentials, which was kind of like about like book banning and like stuff when it comes to like freedom and of the library and like those kinds of things. And then a policy one, and all of them were super informational. I learned something, if not many things, from each workshop. I highly, highly recommend anyone that can go next year. This was my 2nd year going. It was great. And then, you know, they served food that was yummy, and you're getting to, you know, put faces to people that you might have like seen on Zoom in our different like regional meetings, and, you know, meeting different people. The vendors were really great. The first day on Thursday, they had like vendors set up in the hall and you could go through, and, you know, I learned about different like bus programs and different cleaning solutions. I got to meet with like the University of Maine people and hear about some of their programs, so it was just really cool. And lots of free swag. So I mean, it's definitely something I highly suggest taking advantage of as a board member.
My experience was a little simpler. I went on
You missed out on the good days.
Wednesday to a workshop specifically for chairs and vice chairs of school boards, run by Steve Bailey, who was here several times over the years. Very informational, very roles and responsibilities and such, but it always kind of ends up in a big main-wide Q&A for Steve Bailey. And it's interesting, some boards are made of 3 people. And some, we have a much bigger board, so all the different experiences, and it's interesting. There's a lot of learning to be done just from listening to people's experiences, so it's helpful.
Absolutely. I attended the board chair workshop with Stephanie as well, and I went over some of the basics, the roles, responsibilities, key policies, but it is always nice to see what's going on throughout the state and some of the differences, and attended a lot of the same workshops as Destiny. We attended a bargaining one together. Went over the fundamentals of collective bargaining, which was good. We also, I don't want to sound redundant because we did a lot of the same, attended a workshop with the intellectual freedom, which was nice. It was a library media specialist and an activist that went through a lot of the case law and legal precedent and made us aware of some of the tools available if you're faced with some of the challenges and what you have as rights and responsibilities as a district, as an administrator, as a school board member, even as a parent. And they, you know, it actually made me feel pretty comfortable about what we have in place here. Not that we shouldn't always work on our policies and develop them, but they emphasize that the parents are on the foreground and getting a feel for what the parent wants, expects, doesn't want their student to be exposed to or does. So that was very helpful. Also attended a clinic on walking the tightrope, balancing public comment, complaints, employment issues as a board member, also balancing that as an individual, in your role as an individual. And over, you know, board dynamic and some of the different scenarios in varying districts. that was about it. You ladies covered most of it. I guess it's a beauty going last. But yeah, very worthwhile. I think that, and the nice thing too is I know it's hard to juggle schedules, but we can go for some of it, all of it, you know, a couple clinics in one day, but absolutely worth going to.
Sorry, I gotta go through now. It was wobbly and easy.
The only thing that I forgot about on Thursday at the conference, and yesterday would be able to, Clean Cut Painting was recognized as an MSMA partner in education. We put a nomination in for all the work that they've done in the district last few years, and they were one of 3 businesses recognized across the state by the corporation. So 4 members from Clean Cut came to the luncheon with us and received a plaque on stage in recognition from the entire state for their efforts and partnership they've been able to provide the district the last few years. So it was a nice recognition to be able to be a part of. And then the only other piece that Brian alluded to, we do have some surplus vehicles to announce that will be going out for bid. Tomorrow I'll be putting this list out to the 4 towns to see if they have any interest first, and I'll be going out to the general public. But we're putting up a 2001 Chevy Silverado pickup truck, which has a snowplow, a 2009 Dodge Caravan, a 2006 Bluebird Bus diesel, a 2005 Bluebird Bus, also diesel, 2006 Bluebird Bus, diesel, a 2011 Thomas bus, which is diesel, 2010 Thomas bus, which is diesel, and a 2009 GMC mini bus, all up for bid, for sale. They've been taken out of service for the district, and if they can find a good home, that would be great. The goal is to get them out of the yard and not in the store.
Are they working?
They were working on
Or
our
various
part.
states?
They have different various states of working order, and they will all be sold as is, and need to be removed to the highest bidder who chooses to take them, and hopefully they can have a fun project with it. And then the only other piece, following what Mrs. Lecce mentioned, but the high school boys soccer team did make playoffs, and they have a home soccer game at 3:30 this Wednesday, if you're able to attend, for the first round of playoffs. And the weather will not be freezing, so we'll take advantage of it and hope to see you on the hill. And that concludes my report this evening.
Moving on to old business, we do not have any old business to attend to this evening. New business, there aren't any adjustments to the agenda that I'm aware of. So we'll move on to number 2, to see what action the board wishes to take regarding the first reading of policy JEA, compulsory attendance, and the policy committee will have a recommendation.
See what action the board wishes to take on the first reading of policy JEA, compulsory attendance. The edits in this policy add in language that change in state statute and to match current attendance practices in our school. Some of those changes were clarifications around school age of children, lowering the start age from 7 to 6 and through receiving of a diploma. There was some organizational changes moving the excusable absences ahead in the policy in some sections, headings updates. There was also a language change from the personal illness to personal health, including physical, mental, and behavioral health. These edits come from suggestions from MSMA, the state statute, including in the red line version of the policy approval, and the administrative team.
And do you have a recommendation for that?
The recommendation, policy committee recommends approval.
Thank you, David. We do not need a second, and it's being recommended by the subcommittee. Is there any discussion on this motion? Scott?
I've got a question. I'm looking at the credit for attendance at a private school. I guess the question, kind of a larger question. Do we know how many students live in the district, whether they're enrolled in SAD44 or anywhere else? Is there some overall mechanism to, that's how I read that paragraph. There's some.
We know the students who are enrolled in our schools, we know the students who are out of district on superintendent's agreements, and we also have a count of students who are on homeschool status, who live in the 4 district towns. We need a copy of that from the state.
What about a private school? I'm looking at that. Credit for attendance at a private school. So that would be the one category that you didn't hit there, Mark.
Right.
Do we have any way of knowing that number? I'm curious, what kind of, like how many kids go to Hebron, that live in SAD44 boundaries, or go to Gould?
We
Or
would
go out of state.
know, we would know those who leave our district in ninth grade, or they transfer out, but if they're coming in outside of that, no, we do not. Unless they transfer back in, they would come with a transcript, and we would then have to go back and figure out how that matches.
I'll follow up later too, thank you. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Questions?
Everybody, please pick up a packet of this information and go through it by the next meeting. So if you have any questions at all, you can bring it up again before during the second reading. So I'll continue on, see what action the board
Before
will
you
take.
move on to the next one, David, we'll vote on this one.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Nope, no worries. All of those in favor of approval of the first reading of policy JEA, compulsory attendance? Unanimous, thank you.
To see what action the board wishes to take the first reading of the policy IKB homework. This policy was last looked at in 2017, and through discussion at our recent board meeting about formalizing changes at the K through 8 levels and going through revisions with the administrative team. This latest version of the policy is more in line with trauma-informed school practices and help define what the purpose of homework is. It does not eliminate homework and does not take away the option for homework in high school, but focuses more on individual needs, time management, and work that is considered make-up or redo work instead. The policy committee has a recommendation of approval.
Thank you, David. We do not need a second. Any discussion? Right.
I just want to clarify some of this. The when appropriate, teachers may assign a long-term independent project that may involve some work outside of the school, and then a whole bunch of other things were taken out from the previous policy, I'm guessing. Does that just make it more open that teachers now have more discretion as to how they grade items, versus it was very pointed that it's the standard of the main learning results, such as assignments, like before was very narrowed? Does this just open it that teachers have more discretion in how they're grading assignments that are longer term projects?
It allows for that also to be as a point of not, we have other standards, not just the main learning results,
Okay.
that are being followed and used in the curriculum, and that was very specific and narrow, and this just matches more to practice.
Okay. And then follow-up question, because he touched on the high school level of homework. There's nothing in there that I could see that touched, like there's a line of when kind of graded homework would start versus non-graded homework that wouldn't happen to go with that level in the policy.
There's not specific delineation, there's
Okay. No. It's just been talked about twice that we've gone over it.
Any other questions, discussion? Seeing none, all of those in favor of approval of the first reading of policy IKB homework? Thank you, it's unanimous.
To see what action the board wishes to take regarding the first reading of the policy IKF graduation requirements. This policy was last drafted in 2006, following an MSMA suggested policy sample and a combination of extensive edits made by the collaborative team at the high school, including administration, guidance, ELO coach, superintendent, and curriculum director, to make sure the policy was current, but also in line with Telstar practices. You have the policy before you. The focus of the original policy was around the state of Maine direction for proficiency-based diplomas using the main learning results. That movement did not come to fruition. There was also changes around updated special education laws. Locally, we increased our graduation credit requirement from 22 to 24 and updated the policy to match our practices around a senior capstone project, community service, and credit required by students. The new policy also focuses a lot on the municipal pathways to graduation and a diploma which are in sync with the offerings and philosophy of Telstar High School. Policy committee recommends approval.
Thank you, David. Are there any questions or discussion? Scott?
I think it's just a typo or something on the third paragraph down. It says, I think it's new language, or when there's any, is of any chance. That might should be changed, like, it's just poorly worded, I think. That's not missing something.
Can probably strike the of.
And as soon as practical, where there is of any chance in state and post standards, it must, I don't know, change. Something.
Yeah, it should be chance. It
Yeah,
should be
that'll be figured out next meeting.
Yeah, we'll note that. Thank you, Scott. Brian?
Is there a standardized state that tells you how much is one class, one credit? What designates a credit? Says English language, 4 credits needed, mathematics 3 credits. Is it just 1 year of that is 1 credit? Okay. Is it standardized across the state, or is that just what we designate?
It's pretty much, if you take a full year class, it's
That's
one
a credit? Okay.
It's usually based on per semester, either half a credit.
Okay.
So credit's 1 year of instruction.
Any other questions or discussion? Seeing none, all of those in favor of approval of the first reading of policy IKF, graduation requirements? Thank you. That's unanimous. Number 5, to see what action the board wishes to take with regards to awarding the bid for snow plowing for 2024-2025. And facilities and personnel will have a recommendation.
We recommend. To accept the bid.
We had one bid.
Yeah, we did discuss that at the last meeting, but yeah.
We had one bid, it came in, it is through Cross again this year. It is same as last year, it came up $10 per category, which is the same as the previous year. This was posted like it is every year, and they are the only one who submitted a bid, so we have accepted, well, we're hoping you will accept tonight, and we'll let them know that they will be on for our snow removal for the 24-25 season.
Question. Do we know the future of that business since it's had a big change?
We do, there is leadership at the helm, and they're honoring all of their bids and continuing to keep everyone employed, and they are moving forward, and they are actually committed to continuing on. Good question.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor of awarding the bid for snow plowing for 2024-2025 to Cross Excavation? Thank you. Seeing none. Number 6, to see what action the board wishes to take regarding approval of the superintendent's nomination of Mary Merrill to a 1-year K-5 music teacher contract for the 2024-2025 school year, part-time position, 4 days a week. And facilities and personnel will have a recommendation.
Recommend approval.
Discussion. And please return those packets when we're done with this agenda item.
So many of you know Mrs. Merrill from other stints in the district at many levels. Mary is a very seasoned teacher. She's taught in our district multiple times, again 10 and 17. She started her career in Dixfield back when it was, before it was 56. This time around, she's coming in to do a combination of elementary general music and some social emotional learning in classes. It's 4 days a week, and the 5th day a week, she's also subbing and working in Woodstock and Crescent Park to to fill in. So she is very excited. It's always good to get a competent, seasoned teacher who likes little kids, and the kids are excited to go to class. I think it's a win-win for us. I'm very fortunate to get her back. She was not previously certified as a music teacher, but she was able to get her emergency certification for music to do this. She has her degree and certification in elementary ed and middle school. She's K-8 certified, but this is a very specific area. She was able to get her certification for this school year, while we look to get a permanent music teacher in the future. Mary will be the first person says she is not a music teacher by nature, but she can run a classroom and she can engage with children and keep them happy and active. And so that is what we're doing for this year. And the goal is next year to have a trained music teacher back in that role for elementary schools. This does not take away music altogether. We still have instrumental. This is the general music.
Is there special certification for the social emotional part?
There is not specifically. It's a program that is used in all the classrooms. So how they're using it, she is doing it for the teachers consistently versus each teacher trying to do it with their kids. It's essentially a pseudo guidance program, but it's made for classroom teachers to deliver to the students in general. And she's just following it, so it's actually happening across all grade levels.
Questions, discussion? Seeing none, all of those in favor of approval of the superintendent's nomination of Mary Merrill to a one-year K-5 music teacher contract for 2024-2025? It's unanimous, thank you. Please, pass your back. Okay, perfect. Number 7, to see what action the board wishes to take to appoint Levi Brown to fill the Region 9 Cooperative Board representative positions. And facilities and personnel will have recommendation.
Signed all those forms.
That was your test. We discussed this at the board meeting, but realized we didn't take a formal vote to make it official, so my apologies for that. But since you are fulfilling the role, and you did get carpal tunnel after doing all that signing.
I enjoy it. I don't mind riding down. Norm and I ride down together. And he gives me a history lesson on the way.
It's never a bad thing.
I like it.
Okay. Awesome. Well, thank you for doing it.
Any discussion, questions at all? No? Seeing none, all of those in favor of appointing Levi Brown to fill the Region 9 Cooperative Board position?
I make a motion, you adjourn. I'm right on it tonight, boy.
Do I have a second?